make sure that we are in full compliance of statute, rule, and regulation for both federal and state. And in doing so, you are required to be in compliance of those same statutes, rules, and regulations. Go ahead, Kate.
Yeah.
So this is before contracts are executed. Moving into the next part will be, oh, I'm sorry, the monitoring plans. I'm out of order. So what will happen when you fall into low, medium, or high is just varying degrees of technical support. Again, I'm not going to read through them. You guys can all read. You'll see that there's more bullet points as you fall into high. And again, that's just the level of support that you receive from your project officer or from NMED. Next slide.
All right.
So the ongoing monitoring will happen either quarterly or semi-annually. That is going to align with the funding source as well as your programmatic reports. And what will happen with this sheet? This is the sheet that Sam Ferguson referenced earlier that is automatically tied to your request for reimbursement workbook. So the workbook that you have, your project officer will have an exact copy. Their workbook will tie to this other monitoring workbook that will auto-populate amounts, and it will show your funding use by personnel costs and project costs. So this will also help you determine for future agreements, we fell short in personnel because of this reimbursement change. I know I need to add on $5,000 more, right? So then this will also help you plan for future requests. But it's going to give an opportunity for the number of site visits that the project officer made. If they had any performance concerns, if they do, they'll be providing notes. If you completed any tasks during that period. If no, there's going to be some notes. And then if match is required, total match reported year to date. Every quarter, semi-annual, or annually, you as an entity will receive your update from your project officer. So nothing that is on this and nothing at the award closeout assessment. None of this is going to be a surprise. No one will be blindsided. All of the things that are in here, your project officer should be working with you on, throughout the quarter, throughout the year, throughout that period to make sure, you're aware, everyone's aware. It's just putting it down and formalizing an already existing process. Because I know project officers are going out, they're doing site visits, they're talking to you guys constantly over email or phone call, they're providing the support. This just formalizes that process and puts it on paper for our auditors to see, yeah, they're reaching out, they're working with them, they're talking to them. That's all this is. And Kate, if you'll go to the next slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
The post-award, again, assesses programmatic, and Kate, you can kind of go through these. They're all weighted sections. This one looks at staffing, where key staff professionally trained, has their staff turnover, all these kind of things that could occur within an award period, because we do have long award periods, generally 3 to 4 years. Things are going to fluctuate. There's going to be some change. And with each change, consistency makes things easy. So if you have no change, that's great. You're going to come in low. If there's a lot of change, that kind of makes things more complicated. And the more complicated something is, the little bit higher risk that is there. You can keep going to the next slide, Kate. There's history of meeting programmatic requirements. Are you submitting invoices timely and correctly? Are you looking at any data plans? If you have data plans that you need to collect, do you have that in place? Is there not one? What does that look like? Are there any weakness in service delivery and meeting program objectives? How are you performing through meeting the requirements of your agreement? Next slide.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to look at the financial or the fiscal risk level, looking at the amount of the award, the term, the total funding, again, so that you'll see that ties back to the pre-award assessment, your different budget categories. And these are categories for NMED. So like 200, 300, 400, those are different categories. So personnel, contractual subcontractor, or supplies, other costs like that. Reversion history. We want to make sure that you guys are successful in the use of your funds. Ideally, we want you to revert $0, but that's not the nature of reality. So ideal reversion is less than 5% of the overall award. And you'll see that that increases because if you have a history of sending back 15% or more of your award, what's going on? Are we just that far off with our budget? What didn't get completed? You know, all these things come into play. You know, making sure we're following state procurement code, or if you're not, that's a pretty straightforward one. Significant audit findings, if there's been on-site monitoring, that kind of stuff through the fiscal. You can go to the next slide.
That is the last one I have. I
Oh,
don't
it's the
have
last
the
one.
override.
Okay, so after this, it'll total at the bottom and it'll give a score. And then again, same measurements. Low, if Kate, you can go back to the scoring levels. It'll it's all the same scoring scale, low, moderate, high, and that'll help feed into the monitoring plan and how your performance is evaluated moving into the next potential award. And again, you will receive a copy of this once it is finalized after award closeout. So once the termination of your contract, you will receive a copy and will go part of your complete file. So there's actually very little that occurs from you as a contractor with this. We just wanted to make sure that you were aware that this is a new process that we're moving to, or documenting an existing process and making sure that we can provide you guys the necessary support. So when you start receiving these from your project officers, you're not like, well, what in the world is this now? What do I do with it? It just goes with your contract file and stays on hand. Do you have any questions about this process?
I think so. Also, just to mention too, this process will be starting with any new FY25 agreements. So all of our old agreements, this again, we haven't completed this because we didn't do a pre-award assessment, and so we'll be adopting this process for agreements moving forward. So this is again something we're shifting to. Other questions? Any questions from anything else in the presentation that we have not yet addressed, or you know is still unclear? I know we will follow up on some of these questions that we were asked. We will get back to you. Rick asked, do you want us to finish our conversation now or another day? I think, Rick, we'll get back to you another day to follow up on that, if you're okay with that.
And we'll coordinate to make sure we have a schedule with you in a time.
Yep. And thanks, Karen. Thank you for creating a transparent, uniform process. Hope the rollout goes smoothly. We appreciate that. And we are also hopeful, which is why we're doing these presentations now and presenting this information. So again, thank you very much. And thank you all to our cooperators who do this amazing work on the ground. We really appreciate everything that you do for us and contributing to the New Mexico Nonpoint Source program. So again, we really appreciate you wanting to work with us and continuing to work with us. And thank you for growing with us through these changes to our program. So I think with that, we will conclude here today. Thank you so much for your participation, and I'll have all of this information online. Thank you.